As I said, good morning, distinguished guests, directives, teachers, and students. The resolution of this debate is whether Annex I countries should assist developing countries in their adaptation against climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing climate change by leaps and bounds. However, we can prepare to adapt to these changes by economical support and financial aid technologies given by Annex I countries, since they are directly responsible for the cause that many undeveloping countries suffer today. Industrialized countries like the United States of America, Australia, the European Union, or Annex I countries are currently the largest CO2 emitters to the atmosphere. Therefore, they have an historical responsibility of today's climate change. This means they have to lead the initiative to prevent the most devastating effects of climate change. It is true that humans didn't know about the consequences that industrial revolutions would leave. Only a century later, after the Industrial Revolution, the catastrophic consequences of gas emissions and disappropriate consumption of natural resources were known. This impact is now what we call climate change.
Good morning, dear students, teachers, directive, and guests. Today we will defend our position that represents a constructive criticism on regards the issue of the financial aid that is pretended to give to the developed countries, by the developed countries included in the United Nations Annex I, for the adaptation to the problem of the climate change, because we found serious flaws in the arguments made by groups, individuals, and institutions that consider that the economic aid for the developed countries for the climate change adaptation is the solution for this problematic, that yet had been underlined properly because we found that exists a great quantity of aspects that should be taken into account before making a precipitated use of the high monetary figures that can be used in other problems, more real and urgent as social, sanitary, food insufficiency, and illiteracy problems. Between these aspects highlights the prioritized in the decreasing of greenhouse effect gases, about the adaptation in the developing countries as a form to repair a damage, but also can be prevented with the creation of new policies of mitigation that can be developed by the countries as an individual and taking into account the necessities of each nation.
Third, affirmative team, will you address your question to the opponent team? You have 30 seconds for your question and 2 minutes to present your answer.
It will be absurd to pretend that denying the incidence of climate change, pretending that it is part of a natural cycle and not a product of the Industrial Revolution.
As you said, these countries have the best economies in the world. But this doesn't mean that they will not be directly affected. Obviously, the GDPs of these countries will lower in a significant way. And it will be even worse if we consider that we are in a global economical crisis. So, the big industries that make part of the countries of the Annex I will suffer a down in their production that this will lead us to cut workers' benefits. But it was necessary and very useful because it gave us the foundations to what we know today as civilization.
When you refer to adaptation, you are not taking into account that climate change is an imminent success, and in 40 years it will be too late to be ready. We need an action plan right now. And if the adaptation plan starts, the time will not be enough to finish in the right moment. Don't you think that it's better to reduce greenhouse gases in order to win more time and to be ready when disasters come?
Okay, we are not against prevention, but we think that in order to solve this problem, we also need to give green light to adapt to climate and develop convention.
Climate change is already happening, and it represents one of the greatest social, environmental, and economic threats facing the planet. So this is why we keep insisting that it is an obligation for developed countries to help undeveloped countries in their adaptation to climate change. People have always adapted to variations in their climate by making preparations based on their resources and their knowledge accumulated through experience of past weather patterns. Periodically, they have also been forced to react and recover from climate extremes and surprises, such as floods, droughts, and hurricanes. The majority of the world's scientists agree that the Earth's climate is changing. But the big question is, how can communities adapt to climate change? Adaptation can adopt a variety of forms, such as better education, training, awareness of climate change, more technical measures such as coastal protection. For many communities, the direction of climate change remains uncertain. So think, people, is it worth it to continue fighting, to wear down, to create even more issues, or to adapt to something that is real and an urgent matter? So this is why we're Eagles. This is why we have a leader's vision. We are the future generations, and I invite you to use your leader's vision. Thank you.
We are completely sure that the adaptation is not the solution. The real and effective answer for the climate change is the prevention and the mitigation. For this, it is necessary for everybody around the world to start making leadership in individuals' actions that the world population can easily do, because we have the chance and the power to help ending the catastrophic global warming.
Climate change creates a great risk worldwide, but understanding and planning for and adapting to a changing climate, individuals and societies can take advantage of opportunities and reduce the risk.
The climate change in a high percentage is caused by humans because of our ignorance and lack of commitment, but also it's up to us to stop it, or if not, at least to reduce the fatal consequences. Starting from our home, making little change in our mind that will be reflected in change to our immediate environment, the people around us, and at long term in all our planet, with education, and mainly with your help and the help of everyone we can. Let's not stay still waiting for someone to take the initiative. Let's be us, the one who raise our voice to save our planet and make the difference. Yes, we can. Let's save our home. It's not the use, it is the abuse. With all of us together, it is possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our debate. Let's thank our debaters for such a wonderful research and arguments. And to our special guests, thank you again for assisting to our great global debate. Let's give our debaters a big round of applause.